This one sentence, right here, is the key to our entire conversation today. We're going to explore a fundamental shift in how military interventions are justified. And it's not just about changing words, it's about changing our whole perception of war itself.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We'll start by looking at this new vocabulary of conflict. You're about to see how the words we hear are chosen very, very carefully to shape how we understand what's happening on the ground.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It makes the shift so clear, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the old school, really blunt language of war. Invasion, occupation, aggression. But on the right, totally different terms. Security, counterterrorism, protecting democracy. The actions might be the same, but the new language is designed to sound way more acceptable, even noble.
And this brings us to the core concept from our source, moral branding. Now let's be clear, this isn't some happy accident. It's a deliberate strategy. The whole point is to reframe an intervention, not as a choice, but as a moral necessity. It's about making it seem like there's no other option, that acting is an ethical duty, even if the evidence for it is shaky or contradictory.
But hey, this isn't just some abstract theory, right? The source argues this is a playbook that's been put into action again and again. So to really see how this branding works in the real world, let's break down 3 major examples from recent history.
We're going to start with the 2003 invasion of Iraq, which is just a textbook example of this whole phenomenon.
You all remember the justification, right? The one we heard over and over and over again, all across the globe. It was the threat of weapons of mass destruction. That single phrase was designed to create this incredible sense of urgency and danger, framing the whole thing as a necessary act of self-defense for the entire world.
So what was the outcome? Well, as we all know now, those WMDs were never found. The justification turned out to be false. But here's the thing, by the time that became clear, it was too late. The invasion itself was already a done deal.
All right, next, let's turn to the 2011 intervention in Libya. Here, the moral branding took a different shape, but the underlying pattern, well, you'll see it's pretty much the same. In Libya, the moral banner was all about protecting civilians. You probably remember the phrase, responsibility to protect. It was presented as this purely humanitarian mission, just to stop a potential massacre.
But the outcome was a world away from that justification. The intervention went way beyond its initial mandate. It led to regime change, and ultimately it left behind a collapsed state that's been stuck in conflict for more than a decade. And for our final case study, let's talk about the nearly 20-year-long conflict in Afghanistan. This one is really interesting because it shows how these justifications can actually shift and evolve over time.
See, at first, the justification was crystal clear. It was a direct response to the 9/11 attacks. But as the years dragged on, the branding for the mission started to morph. It became about rebuilding society, establishing democracy, and, very powerfully, liberating women. All worthy goals for sure, but they also served to justify keeping troops there for a very long time.
In the outcome after all that time, a sudden chaotic withdrawal that frankly left a lot more questions than answers about what exactly 2 decades of intervention had really accomplished.
So, it's pretty clear these justifications aren't just one size fits all. The source material makes a really strong case that they're carefully customized, almost like a marketing campaign for the specific country and the audience they're trying to convince.
Take a look at this. It's really insightful. If a country is rich in resources, the story might focus on economic collapse or corruption. If it's in a strategically important spot, you'll hear all about security of navigation or regional stability. And for a nation with a different political system, well, then it becomes an ideological threat. It's all about fighting the angle that's going to be most effective.
And once that narrative is chosen, it gets amplified. I mean, really amplified. It's repeated constantly across media outlets. It gets the stamp of legitimacy from international organizations. It's reinforced through political alliances. And this happens over and over until that carefully crafted story becomes widely accepted as just the truth.
So, this brings us to our final and maybe the most important section. We've gone through the how, but now we have to ask the fundamental why. We're getting to the real heart of the issue here: power.
The source puts this first question out there directly. When one nation decides to get involved in another's business, where does that authority come from? Who gets to be the judge? And building right on that, who gets to define what's moral on a global scale? Who decides when an intervention isn't just a political move, but a moral duty?
And this is the real kicker. Why are these moral principles used for some countries
but totally ignored for others. The source suggests that this selectivity is the key to understanding the entire dynamic.
And this all leads to the ultimate danger that the analysis points out. This isn't just about semantics. It creates a world where raw power can be dressed up and called moral duty. It's a world where international law isn't a universal standard for everyone, but a selective tool for the powerful.
We'll end with this powerful thought from the source material. It suggests that the act of invasion itself hasn't really gone away, it's just gotten better at marketing. It's a sobering idea, and a good reminder to always look past the label to see the action itself.